Hello, hello. Welcome to the channel. I hope that you are having a fantastic day. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If this is your first time checking out one of my videos, my name is McKenna. I own a digital media company called Studio SB Creatives, and today we're going to be talking about the differences between long form and short form content. So to start off, what is long form and short form content? Well, long form and short form content are going to be the primary forms of content that you see on social media platforms. And on these platforms, these types of content perform differently, and some of them are built for specific types of content. But before we get into all that, let's kind of define what long form and short form content are. Starting with long form content. Long form content is going to be really any type of content that exceeds 5 minutes. 4 minutes on the shorter end, but usually it's going to be 5+ minutes. Short form content, on the other hand, is going to be any form of content that you see lasting from 30 seconds to roughly 3 minutes. And you'll see a lot of short form content on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Twitter, really anything like that. And you'll see a lot more long form content on platforms such as YouTube. That's really the only one that does long form content, or it's really the only one that's the most popular for it, because it allows you to upload videos that long. I know that certain other platforms have the ability to upload long form content, but it just doesn't perform as well, and most people don't use it for that purpose. And that's because long form and short form content both serve different purposes. And that's kind of how we're going to transition into the pros and cons of using long form and short form content. Now that we've defined them, what are the pros and cons of long form and short form content? So when posting long form content, they're going to give people a little bit more value. They're going to be a little bit more in depth, and they're just going to help you build better trust with your audience. Long form content is also going to boost your SEO, which in simple terms basically just translate to being easier to find, such as when people search Google or something like that. They're just going to rank higher on the pages and be more relevant to the search. And the reason that it is easier to find, it ranks higher, and it helps build that trust is because it's better for discussing these complex topics, such as the topics that I discuss on my channel, which is why all my videos are, 10, 12, 15 minutes, whatever. It allows me to go into a lot more depth than short form content would. It allows me to discuss these ideas in a fuller manner. It allows me to kind of get the whole idea out. That's pretty much the gist of the pros for long form content. Now let's start talking about what are the cons of long form content. From a back-end standpoint, long form content just takes longer to produce. It takes more energy, and you have to put more time and effort into it to get those types of content out into the world. They take longer to edit. They take longer to script if you do it that way. Really, they take up more time, which is really just the simple version of it compared to short form content that you can kind of crank out video after video after video after video. And because that long form content takes longer to produce, it also has a bigger risk of losing the attention of viewers. In today's day and age, people have been basically reprogrammed to just consume, and it's way easier to consume short form content than it is long form content. Some people don't have the attention span or even the ability to sit through 10-minute, 12-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, however long videos. It's a lot easier to watch, 5 1-minute videos than 1 5-minute video. That's just kind of where we are as a society. And it's not to say that long form content doesn't work or that short form content is better. It's just kind of the norm nowadays. And that kind of leads into the next idea, where if people just want quick information, like they're looking for something very, very specific, they might not want to sit through a 5-minute video listening to somebody talk kind of around the point before they actually get to the main idea of the video. Sometimes they just want exactly what they're looking for. They want it right now and they want to move on. Long form content can do that, but that's not usually the case. So those are just a couple pros and cons of long form content. Now let's do a little transition into the pros and cons of short form content. So starting off, what are the pros of short form content? Well, like we were just discussing, quick engagement. It allows for people to get very specific information very quickly. People are more likely to, like, comment, or save short form content than they might be on long form content, just because more people are going to see it. They're more likely to watch the entire video, and they're more willing to engage with it because it's more relevant to what they're interested in seeing. And that kind of leads back into another topic that I was discussing, where short form content is just easier to produce. Like, if you're seeing this video, you're watching it in its long form. But after I post this and after I edit the main version, I'm going to go back and chop this up into probably like 4 or 5 smaller short form content videos, which are going to be a little bit more specific. I'll probably break it up by part, but I can take one piece of long form content and then change it and alter it and chop it up into 5, 6, however many pieces of short form content. And like I said, those are going to get a little bit more reach and a little bit more engagement from the community. And that kind of leads into short form content being a little bit more shareable. Not everybody is going to watch or share a 10-minute video because most people just aren't going to watch it. Most people don't have the attention span for it. Most people don't have the patience to sit through a video like that. But if short form content kind of hits an idea square on the head, somebody's going to share that. They might save it and they might send it to somebody else because it just gets to the point very fast. And it makes more sense for them to do that with short form content than it does with long form content. And because of its shareability and because of the quick engagement that short form content garners, it's perfect for building brand awareness. If you're a new company, you want to put out a lot of short form content so that you can maximize your reach to new audiences and garner more traffic that way. So those are just a couple of the pros for short form content. Now let's start moving into the cons. So what are the cons of short form content? Unlike long form content, you're limited in your depth. And we discussed that when we were talking about the pros of long form content. Long form content allows you to discuss ideas in more detail, whereas short form content is just more to the point. It doesn't explain the backstory of everything. It doesn't go into that depth. It doesn't go into that detail, which might not be the best. It might not be exactly what somebody is searching for. Like, for example, if you're discussing how a camera works, you might be able to say, this thing does this thing does this thing, and this thing does this thing, but short form content might not discuss why those things do those things, or what the best setting is, or how to use those certain elements to create a better picture or better video. So it just gives you, like, here are the main points. Go do with that information what you will. Whereas long form content will kind of walk you through what you need to do and why things are the way they are so that you can execute your ideas accordingly. And because it doesn't have that detail, because it doesn't go into that depth, it tends to fade a little bit faster. You see it, you swipe away, and then a couple minutes later, you've basically already forgotten about it. Like, you're onto a new idea. And that's just not good for building those long-term relationships. Now, it is better for getting your foot in the door. It does allow for that shareability. It does allow for people to quickly engage with your content, which means they will like your content. They will comment on your content. And a lot of times they'll follow you to see more of your content. That's good in the short term, but building those long-term relationships, you're going to want to go into depth and you're going to want to discuss your ideas in detail so that people feel like they're getting the most value out of your content. And because it lacks that detail and because it lacks that depth, it might not come off as authentic. It might come off almost as if you didn't really put a whole lot of thought or effort into it, which might not be the case. Like I said, you're seeing a long form piece of content right now, but when I chop it up, people who see the short versions of it, they're going to lose 90% of what I was talking about, which isn't a bad thing, but it might not be exactly what they're looking for because it doesn't go into that depth. It doesn't discuss the ideas in the full way that I intended for them to be spoken into the world. So those are just a couple of the pros and cons of short form content. So now that we've discussed the definitions, the pros and the cons of short form and long form content, what do you need to do to make that content work for you? What is going to be the best content that you can produce to be most successful when utilizing social media as a tool to grow your business? There's no right answer. There's no yes or no. There's no you should do this or you should do that. It's really not that simple. It's going to come down to, what your business is, what you are able to produce. If you're trying to sell like a product, you might want short form content to get people engaged very quickly, but you might also want to make long form content that discusses the details of your product. And that's kind of what I think I would advise most, is that you find a nice balance and blend of long form and short form content to make the content work best for you. Now, not every type of company is going to be able to make long or short form content. It might not just be in their cards. But if you can find that balance, that will probably be your best option, because when you're making that short form content, you're going to get your foot in the door with new audiences. You're going to reach more people more quickly. And if your content is good, those people will stick around to see more of your short form content, and in turn will be more likely to watch and view your long form content, which will help you build better relationships. It will increase your authenticity as a brand or business, and it will build that long-term connection that you're looking for with your customers or consumers. So with that being said, that's basically going to wrap up this video. I hope that you found at least some of this information helpful. And if you did, leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.